Jin Hyuk stared at the snow falling outside his Manhattan penthouse windows, the city lights blurring into streaks of gold and red against the darkness. Christmas Eve, the loneliest night of the year. Below him, families hurried through the streets, arms full of wrapped presents, faces bright with anticipation. He turned away from the window, pouring another glass of whiskey. At 35 years old, he controlled half of New York's underground empire. His name sent shivers through the criminal underworld. His decisions determined who lived and who disappeared into the East River. He had power, wealth, respect, and absolutely nothing that mattered. His penthouse was a monument to success and emptiness. 15,000 square feet of marble floors, designer furniture, and priceless art. Not a single photograph, not one personal item, just cold perfection reflecting a cold life. He unbuttoned his white shirt, 1 button, 2, 3, 4, letting it hang open to reveal the intricate black tiger tattoo coiling around his neck. A masterpiece of Korean traditional art, a symbol of power, a reminder that he was predator, not prey. The doorbell rang. Jin Hyuk froze, hand instinctively moving toward the gun tucked at his waist. Nobody visited, ever. His security was impenetrable. His address was a closely guarded secret. Yet someone stood at his door on Christmas Eve. He approached cautiously, checking the security monitor. The hallway appeared empty, but when he looked through the peephole, adjusting his angle downward, his breath caught. 3 small figures huddled against his door, barely visible in the dim hallway light. Children. 3 identical little girls shivering in the cold, their dark faces streaked with tears and melting snow. One of them held something in her trembling hands, a crumpled envelope. Jin Hyuk's world, built on violence and control, was about to shatter, and nothing would ever be the same. The cold December wind slammed into Jin Hyuk's face as he opened the door, carrying with it the scent of snow and desperation. The 3 girls looked up at him with identical brown eyes, wide, terrified, exhausted. Triplets, maybe 6 years old, though malnutrition made it hard to tell. Their lips were tinged blue, trembling from cold or fear or both. The tallest one, and by tallest she stood perhaps an inch taller than her sisters, wore a purple jacket 2 sizes too small, the sleeve torn at the shoulder, exposing thin, dark skin to the winter cold. Her hair was braided in neat cornrows with colorful beads that clicked softly when she moved, though the style was days old, coming undone at the edges. Someone had cared enough to braid that hair beautifully. Once. "Please, mister," she whispered, her voice hoarse. "Mama said to give this to the man in 4502. Jin Hyuk's jaw clenched. His address. How did anyone, especially a child, know his exact apartment number? His eyes scanned the hallway behind them, looking for threats, for cameras, for any sign of a trap. Nothing. Just 3 shivering children and puddles of melting snow around their worn sneakers. He took the envelope from her trembling fingers. The paper was cheap, wrinkled, stained with what looked like tears, or maybe blood. His name was scrawled across the front in shaky handwriting, Jin Hyuk, please. He tore it open with one sharp motion. Inside, the letter was barely legible, written in desperate haste. "I worked for you 2 years ago at the Lotus Club. You caught me stealing from the register. I was desperate, my babies were hungry, you should have killed me. That's what everyone said you'd do. But you gave me money instead. You paid my debt. You told me to disappear and never come back. I did what you said. I tried to build a life, but I made mistakes, bad mistakes. I got involved with the wrong people. Now they're coming for me, and when they find me, they'll kill me. But worse, they'll hurt my babies. Their names are Hope, Faith, and Grace. They're 6 years old. They're smart and sweet, and they deserve a life I can't give them. I'm leaving them with you because you're the only person who ever showed me mercy. You're dangerous, but you're not cruel. You saved my life once. Now I'm begging you, save theirs. Please don't let them go into the system. Please don't let them be separated. They only have each other. They only have you now. I know I'm asking for a miracle, but you're the only miracle I've ever known." Jasmine. No last name. But Jin Hyuk remembered her, 2 years ago. A young black woman with frightened eyes, caught stealing $300 from the club's register. His men had brought her to him, ready to make an example of her. He'd looked at her shaking hands, her hollow cheeks, the milk stains on her shirt that said she was nursing. He'd given her $5,000 and told her to run. Now she'd brought her children back to him, or rather, she'd sent them, because Jasmine herself was nowhere to be seen. Jin Hyuk looked down at the three girls again. Hope, the one who'd spoken, watched him with something between terror and desperate trust. Faith clutched a stuffed bear that had seen better days, one eye missing, stuffing leaking from a torn seam. Grace, the smallest, was crying silently, fat tears rolling down her cheeks, her whole body shaking. They were starving. He could see it in their sunken cheeks, their too thin wrists, the way their clothes hung loose on their small frames. When had they last eaten? Yesterday. 2 days ago. Where is your mother? His voice came out harsher than he intended, and all three girls flinched. Hope's chin trembled. She said she had to go away. She said bad men were looking for her. She said you would keep us safe. She said you were the only one who could. When did she leave you? This morning. She gave us bus money and wrote down your address. She said to wait until it was dark, then come here. She said, Hope's voice broke. She said she loved us. She said she was sorry. Then she left. Jin Hyuk's hands clenched into fists. Jasmine had dropped these children at his door like packages and disappeared, probably already dead, if she'd gotten involved with the kind of people he suspected, and she'd made him responsible for 3 lives he'd never asked for. This was insane. Absolutely insane. He was a crime boss, not a guardian. His penthouse had weapons hidden in every room. Blood had been spilled on these marble floors. He'd tortured men in the spare bedroom. This was no place for children. But looking at their faces, 3 identical expressions of exhaustion and fear and fading hope, he couldn't send them back into the cold. Not on Christmas Eve. Not when they had nowhere else to go. Come inside, he said gruffly, stepping back. The girls didn't move. They stood frozen in the hallway as if waiting for permission to breathe. Now, he added, softer this time, you're letting the cold in. Hope took her sister's hands, and the 3 of them shuffled forward as one unit, never separating. They stepped into his penthouse and stopped immediately in the entryway, not daring to venture further onto the pristine marble floors. Their wet shoes left small puddles. Grace's teeth chattered so loudly it echoed in the vast space. Faith's stomach growled, a sound so desperate and loud that Jin Hyuk felt something twist in his chest. When had he last felt anything in his chest besides the cold weight of power? He stared at them, mind racing through options. He could call Min Jun, his right-hand man. Min Jun would know what to do, probably take them to child services, make sure they were processed properly, wipe Jin Hyuk's connection to the whole situation. Clean, efficient, safe. But Hope was looking at him with those enormous brown eyes, and he remembered Jasmine's words, don't let them go into the system. Don't let them be separated. Are you hungry? The question came out before he'd decided to ask it. 3 heads nodded in perfect unison, a movement so synchronized it would have been cute if it wasn't so heartbreaking. Jin Hyuk walked to his kitchen, an enormous restaurant-quality space he rarely used. His personal chef prepared meals at his office or delivered them here. The refrigerator was mostly empty. Some leftover bulgogi from 2 days ago. Rice in the cooker. Kimchi. Definitely not kid-friendly food. He pulled out what he had, heating the rice and bulgogi in the microwave, his movements mechanical. What did children eat? He had no idea. Were they even old enough for spicy food? Was bulgogi appropriate? He was the most powerful crime boss in Manhattan, and he didn't know how to feed 3 6-year-old girls. He divided the food onto 3 plates, adding extra rice to each one. When he returned to the living room, the girls hadn't moved an inch. They stood in the exact same spot, a small puddle of melting snow beneath their feet, afraid to touch anything in his pristine home. Sit. He gestured to the white leather couch that had cost more than most people made in a year. They climbed onto it carefully, their small bodies barely making an indent in the expensive cushions. He handed them the plates and watched as they stared at the food like they couldn't believe it was real. Eat, he said, and permission granted, they devoured it. They ate like wild animals, shoveling rice and meat into their mouths with their bare hands, not bothering with the forks he'd provided. Tears streamed down their faces as they ate, not from sadness, but from pure relief. Faith made small whimpering sounds between bites. Grace stuffed her mouth so full she could barely chew. Hope ate slower, more controlled, but her hands shook with each movement. Jin Hyuk watched them, something cold and hard inside him beginning to crack. These children were starving. Not hungry, starving. How long had Jasmine been unable to feed them? Days, weeks. Grace finished first, licking the plate clean before looking up at him with sauce on her face and hope in her eyes. "Thank you, mister," she whispered. "Jin Hyuk," he corrected, surprising himself. He never gave his real name to anyone outside his organization. "My name is Jin Hyuk." "Jin Hyuk," she repeated carefully, testing the syllables with her small voice. Then after a pause, "Are you going to keep us?" The question hit him like a bullet to the chest. Keep them? How could he keep children? He was a criminal. He killed people for a living. He destroyed families, ended lives, built an empire on blood and fear. What could he possibly offer 3 innocent little girls? But Faith spoke before he could answer, her voice barely audible. "Please don't send us away." The last place, the last foster home, they hit Hope. Jin Hyuk's blood went ice cold. He looked at Hope, really looked this time. Beneath the exhaustion and dirt, he saw it. A faint yellow bruise on her left cheekbone. Old, fading, but unmistakable. Someone had hit this child. Someone had hurt her. "They said we were too much trouble," Faith continued, her voice cracking. "They said 3 kids were too hard. They said we ate too much. But we tried to be good. We tried so hard." "They didn't want us," Grace whispered. "Nobody wants us. Mama said you were different. Mama said you were dangerous but not mean. She said you had a good heart even though you did bad things." Jin Hyuk's hands clenched into fists, so tight his knuckles went white. Rage, pure, protective, primal rage, flooded through his veins. Someone had hit these children. Someone had told them they weren't wanted. Someone had starved them and neglected them and made them believe they were too much trouble to love. And Jasmine, desperate and dying, had gambled everything on his mercy. "No one will hurt you here," he said, his voice low and deadly serious. "I promise you that. No one will ever hurt you again." Hope's eyes filled with fresh tears. "Really? You promise? Really?" The word felt strange on his tongue. A promise. He didn't make promises. Promises were liabilities in his world. Promises got you killed. But looking at these 3 girls, exhausted, terrified, abused, but still somehow hoping, he knew he couldn't break this one, even if keeping it destroyed him. "Can we stay?" Grace asked, her voice so small and hopeful it physically hurt to hear. Jin Hyuk looked at them, 3 pairs of identical brown eyes watching him like he was their last chance at salvation. And maybe he was. Maybe Jasmine had been right. Maybe the most dangerous man in New York was exactly who these girls needed. "Yes," he heard himself say. "You can stay." Hope started crying, really crying this time. Not silent tears, but broken, relieved sobs. Faith joined her, clutching her one-eyed bear tighter. Grace launched herself off the couch and wrapped her small arms around Jin Hyuk's legs, pressing her face against his thigh. "Thank you," she sobbed. "Thank you, thank you, thank you." Jin Hyuk stood frozen, unsure what to do with his hands. He'd held guns, knives, and garrots. He'd broken bones and ended lives. But he'd never held a crying child. Slowly, awkwardly, he placed one hand on Grace's head, feeling her soft braids beneath his palm. "It's okay," he said, the words feeling foreign. "You're safe now." And standing in his cold, empty penthouse with 3 broken children clinging to him, Jin Hyuk realized his life had just changed forever. He'd made empires and destroyed enemies. He'd commanded armies and conquered territories. But nothing had prepared him for this. Nothing had prepared him for fatherhood. The first night was chaos wrapped in confusion and soaked in desperation. Jin Hyuk had 5 bedrooms in his penthouse, but none of them were suitable for children. His master bedroom had floor-to-ceiling windows with no curtains. He'd never needed privacy 15 floors up. The guest rooms contained priceless art, fragile sculptures, and absolutely nothing soft, warm, or comforting. One room was literally just his weapons cache. Another was his office, complete with documents that could send him to prison for life. He stood in the hallway, 3 exhausted girls trailing behind him, and realized he had no idea where they would sleep. "This way," he finally said, leading them to his master bedroom. It was the only room with an actual bed, a California king that cost more than a car. The mattress alone was imported from Italy. The triplet stood in the doorway, staring at the massive bed like it was a monument. "You can sleep here," Jin Hyuk said. I'll sleep on the couch." "All 3 of us?" Hope asked carefully, as if checking if it was a trick. "Yes." "Together?" "Yes." "You won't separate us?" The question broke something inside him. "No, I won't separate you. Ever." The girls climbed onto the bed together, their movements synchronized in a way that spoke of a lifetime of sharing space, sharing everything. They curled into each other like puppies, Faith clutching her one-eyed bear, Grace sucking her thumb, Hope watching Jin Hyuk with eyes that refused to close, despite obvious exhaustion. "You can sleep," Jin Hyuk said awkwardly from the doorway. "You're safe here, I promise. Will you stay?" Hope's voice was barely a whisper. Just until we fall asleep. The last house, they locked us in the dark, alone. We're scared of the dark now." Jin Hyuk looked at his watch. It was nearly midnight. He had calls to make, emergencies to handle, an empire that ran 24/7. But looking at Hope's face, at the fear lurking behind her exhaustion, he couldn't leave. "I'll stay." He pulled a chair from the corner and sat beside the bed, his posture rigid, uncomfortable. The girls watched him for a few minutes. Then Grace reached out and touched his hand with her small fingers. "Thank you, Jin Hyuk," she whispered. "You're nice." Nice. When was the last time anyone had called him nice? When was the last time anyone had looked at him with anything other than fear or calculation? Within minutes their breathing evened out. Deep, peaceful, trusting. Jin Hyuk watched them sleep, their small faces relaxed for the first time since he'd seen them. Hope's hand had found Faith's. Faith's head rested on Grace's shoulder. Even in sleep they held on to each other. What had he done? What the hell had he done? He pulled out his phone, typing a message to Min Jun with one hand. "Need background check. Woman named Jasmine. Worked at Lotus Club 2 years ago. 3 daughters. Triplets, age 6. Everything you can find. Urgent." The response came within 2 minutes. "On it." "But boss, what's going on?" Jin Hyuk stared at his phone, then at the 3 sleeping girls. "Call you tomorrow, just get me the information." He couldn't explain this. Not to Min Jun, not to anyone, because he didn't understand it himself. He sat in that chair for 3 hours watching them sleep. Around 3 a.m., Grace woke up crying, a nightmare jerking her from sleep. Before Jin Hyuk could react, Hope and Faith were awake too, wrapping their arms around their sister, whispering soothing words in the dark. "It's okay, Gracie," Hope whispered. "We're safe, remember? Jin Hyuk promised. He promised nobody would hurt us." "But what if Mama doesn't come back?" Grace sobbed. "What if she's gone forever?" Silence fell heavy in the dark room. The girls didn't say anything, but Jin Hyuk saw the truth in their eyes. They knew. They were 6 years old, but they knew their mother wasn't coming back. "Jin Hyuk?" Hope's voice cut through the darkness. "Can we ask you something?" "Yes. If Mama doesn't come back, can we stay with you, for real? Not just tonight." Jin Hyuk looked at these 3 children, who'd been abandoned, abused, and starved, and he saw something he recognized. Survivors. They were fighters, just like him. Born into circumstances they didn't choose, trying to survive in a world that didn't want them. "Yes," he said, and this time he meant it completely. "If your mother doesn't come back, you stay with me. For real." "Promise?" Grace asked. "I promise." The girls fell back asleep, this time peaceful. But Jin Hyuk stayed awake, his mind racing through logistics. He needed help. He needed someone who knew how to care for children. He needed clothes, food, toys, beds, everything. He needed to make his home safe for 3 6-year-olds. He needed to become someone he'd never been, responsible for lives that mattered. At dawn, he finally left the bedroom, closing the door quietly. He made coffee, sat at his desk, and stared at the letter again. Jasmine's desperate handwriting, her last act of love, trusting a criminal to save her children. At 7 a.m., Mrs. Chen arrived, his housekeeper, a woman who'd worked for him for 5 years and asked no questions. She stopped dead when she saw him sitting on the couch, exhausted and disheveled. "Mr. Jin, is everything— I need your help." He stood, running a hand through his hair. "I have 3 children staying with me. Temporarily, maybe permanently, I don't know, but I need help. I need someone who knows how to care for kids." Mrs. Chen's eyes widened. In 5 years she'd never seen him rattled. "Children? Here? In my bedroom. Asleep. They're 6 years old. Triplets. He paused, choosing words carefully. "They have nowhere else to go, and I promised I'd keep them safe." Mrs. Chen studied his face for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "I raised 8 children, Mr. Jin. 4 boys, 4 girls. I can help. I'll pay you triple, whatever you need. Just help me not destroy them." A small smile crossed her face. "You won't destroy them, Mr. Jin. The fact that you're worried about it means you care. That's the first step." Jin Hyuk heard movement from the bedroom, small voices, hushed and nervous. The girls were waking up. "They'll need breakfast," Mrs. Chen said, already moving toward the kitchen. "Children's stomachs are small. They need to eat frequently, but in smaller portions. And they need familiar foods, nothing too spicy or exotic." "Not yet. I gave them bulgogi last night. How did they react?" "They ate it like they hadn't seen food in days." Mrs. Chen's expression softened with understanding and sadness. "Poor babies. I'll make them oatmeal with honey and bananas. Something warm and filling but gentle on their stomachs. You go check on them." Jin Hyuk walked back to his bedroom and opened the door carefully. The 3 girls were awake, sitting on the bed in a tight cluster, whispering to each other. They looked up when he entered, their expressions uncertain, as if they weren't sure if last night had been real or a dream. "Good morning," Jin Hyuk said. "Good morning," Hope replied carefully. Are we really staying?" "Yes." "You're not sending us away?" "No." Grace slid off the bed and walked to him, looking up with those enormous brown eyes. "Are you our daddy now?" The question caught him completely off guard. Daddy? He was a killer, a criminal, a man who'd built an empire on violence and fear. He wasn't anyone's daddy. But looking at this little girl, hopeful, scared, desperate for someone to claim her, he couldn't say no. "If you want me to be." Grace threw her arms around his legs. "I want you to be." Faith nodded enthusiastically, hugging her bear. "Me too." Hope stood more slowly, walking to him with measured steps. She looked older than her 6 years, the weight of being the eldest triplet even by minutes written on her face. "You promise you won't hurt us?" she asked quietly. "You promise you won't hit us, or lock us in the dark, or tell us we're too much trouble?" Jin Hyuk knelt down, bringing himself to her eye level. "I promise. And when I make a promise, I keep it. Always." Hope studied his face for a long moment, then nodded. "Okay, then you can be our daddy." Something warm and terrifying bloomed in Jin Hyuk's chest. Responsibility, purpose, fear, hope. All of it tangled together into something he'd never felt before. "Come on," he said, standing. "Let's get you some breakfast. Then we're going shopping. You need clothes, beds, everything." "Shopping?" Faith's eyes lit up. "Like at a store?" "Yes. Can I get a new bear?" She held up her one-eyed companion. "Mr. Buttons is tired. He needs a friend." Jin Hyuk looked at the ragged stuffed animal, then at Faith's hopeful face. "You can get 10 new bears if you want." The girls' faces transformed, joy replacing fear for the first time since he'd met them. And Jin Hyuk realized that making children happy was more satisfying than any business deal he'd ever closed. Breakfast was a revelation. Mrs. Chen made oatmeal with honey, bananas, and a sprinkle of cinnamon. The girls ate slowly this time, savoring each bite, their eyes wide with wonder at the sweetness. Jin Hyuk watched them drinking coffee, still trying to process the fact that he now had 3 daughters. 3 daughters. The thought was insane. Yesterday he'd been alone. Today he was a father to triplets. "Mr. Jin," Mrs. Chen said quietly, pulling him aside while the girls ate. "I need to tell you something. These children have been through trauma. The way they eat, the way they flinch at sudden movements, the way they stay so close together, these are signs of severe neglect and possibly abuse. I know. They're going to need patience, structure, consistency. They're going to test you, push boundaries, make sure you're really going to stay. And you cannot waver. If you're going to do this, you have to commit fully. Jin Hyuk looked at the three girls sitting at his table, eating oatmeal and whispering to each other. They looked so small in his vast dining room, so vulnerable in his world of violence and danger. I'm committed, he said, and he meant it. After breakfast, they went shopping. Jin Hyuk had never been to a children's store in his life. He stood in the entrance of Kids R Us in Midtown Manhattan, three little girls holding his hands, and felt completely out of his depth. Can we really get anything? Hope asked cautiously. Anything you need. What about things we want? Jin Hyuk looked down at her serious face. Those too. What followed was 2 hours of controlled chaos. The girls tried on clothes, dresses, jeans, sweaters, pajamas. They picked out shoes with lights in them. They chose backpacks covered in butterflies and unicorns. Grace found a stuffed tiger that reminded her of Jin Hyuk's tattoo and refused to put it down. Faith stood in the stuffed animal aisle, overwhelmed by choices, tears streaming down her face. What's wrong? Jin Hyuk asked, kneeling beside her. There are too many, she sobbed. I don't know which one Mr. Buttons would like. What if I choose wrong? Jin Hyuk looked at the wall of stuffed animals, then at this little girl crying because she had too many choices. Probably the first time in her life she'd had any choices at all. Take them all, he said. Faith's eyes widened. All of them? Every single one. Mr. Buttons can have a whole family. The sales clerk's eyes nearly popped out when Jin Hyuk approached the register with 3 overflowing carts. Clothes, toys, books, art supplies, bedding, everything 3 little girls could possibly need. Will this be on your card, sir? The clerk asked, eyeing the total nervously. Yes. Jin Hyuk handed over his black card without looking at the price. Money was meaningless. These girls' smiles were priceless. On the way back to the penthouse, squeezed into his Mercedes SUV surrounded by shopping bags, Grace fell asleep against his arm. Faith hummed quietly, organizing her new stuffed animals by size. Hope watched the city pass by the window, her expression thoughtful. Jin Hyuk? She asked quietly. Why are you doing this? Doing what? Being nice to us, buying us things, letting us stay. You don't know us. We're not your real kids. Jin Hyuk glanced at her in the rearview mirror. Such serious eyes for such a small child. Your mother saved my life once. Now I'm returning the favor. How did she save your life? He was quiet for a moment, considering how much truth to share. She reminded me that I'm human, that I can choose to help people instead of hurt them. That's a valuable lesson. Hope nodded slowly, processing this then. Are we going to live with you forever? Do you want to? Yes. But what if you change your mind? What if we're too much trouble? Jin Hyuk pulled into his building's underground garage and parked. He turned to face all 3 girls, Grace waking up sleepily, Faith clutching her bears, Hope watching him with careful eyes. I'm not going to change my mind, he said firmly. You're not too much trouble, you're not a burden, you're... He paused, finding the right words. You're mine now, my daughters, and I protect what's mine, always. Even though we're black and you're Korean? Faith asked innocently. Your skin color doesn't matter to me. What matters is that you're good kids who deserve a good life, and I'm going to give you that life, I promise. Hope smiled, the first real smile he'd seen from her. Okay, Daddy. Daddy. The word hit him like a freight train, but this time, instead of fear, he felt something else. Pride, purpose, a reason to be better than he'd been. They hauled the shopping bags upstairs, Mrs. Chen meeting them with wide eyes at the sheer volume. She helped the girls put away their new clothes while Jin Hyuk made calls. He needed to convert a guest room into a bedroom. He needed children's furniture. He needed to make this place a home. By evening, he'd hired a team of contractors to work overnight, painting one of the guest rooms, a soft pink color the girls had chosen. They'd deliver 3 twin beds tomorrow, along with dressers, a bookshelf, and a toy chest. That night, the girls slept in his bed again, but this time they fell asleep quickly, exhausted from the day's excitement. Jin Hyuk sat in his office, laptop open, researching everything he could about caring for 6-year-old children, bedtime routines, nutrition, education, emotional development, trauma response. He read until his eyes burned, absorbing information like he was planning a military campaign, because, in a way, he was. He was planning the most important mission of his life, raising 3 broken little girls into strong, happy women. His phone buzzed. Min Jun, found the information you requested. It's not good, boss. Call me when you can. Jin Hyuk stepped onto his balcony, the cold December air biting through his shirt. He dialed Min Jun's number. Talk. Jasmine Williams, age 28, worked at Lotus Club 2 years ago, like you said. After you let her go, she got a job as a waitress in Queens. Kept clean for about 18 months. Then she met Marcus Chen. Jin Hyuk's blood went cold at the name. Marcus Chen. Low-level dealer. Cruel. Sloppy. Ambitious in the worst ways. He got her hooked, Min Jun continued. Started using her as a mule. She tried to leave 3 months ago. He threatened the kids. She tried to run. He found her. Boss, we found her body this morning. Alley in Queens. Overdose. Forced from the looks of it. Jin Hyuk's grip on the phone tightened until his knuckles went white. Marcus Chen did this? Yeah. And boss. He knows about the girls. He's been asking around about 3 kids. He sees them as loose ends, witnesses to his operation, even if they're too young to understand what they saw. Where is he? We don't know yet. He's gone underground. But boss, if he's looking for those kids, then he's a dead man. Jin Hyuk's voice was ice. Find him. I don't care what it costs. Find him and bring him to me. Alive, I want him conscious. You got it, boss. What about the girls? Are they? They're mine now. The words came out with absolute certainty, and anyone who threatens them answers to me. Make sure everyone knows that. The girls are under my protection, their family. Silence on the other end. Then, understood, boss. I'll spread the word. And boss, for what it's worth, I think you're doing the right thing. Jin Hyuk hung up and stood on the balcony, looking out at the glittering city. Somewhere out there, Marcus Chen was planning to hurt his daughters. Somewhere out there, a threat existed to the 3 little girls sleeping peacefully in his bed. He'd eliminated threats before, hundreds of them. But this was different. This was personal. This was about protecting his family. Jin Hyuk's hand touched the tiger tattoo on his neck. In Korean folklore, tigers protected the innocent. They were fierce guardians, loyal to death. He'd be their tiger, their protector, their father, and anyone who tried to hurt them would learn exactly how dangerous a protective father could be. The next few weeks passed in a blur of firsts. First time reading bedtime stories, first time braiding hair badly but Hope thanked him anyway, first time kissing scraped knees, first time attending a doctor's appointment for someone other than himself. The pediatrician, Dr. Patel, was a kind Indian woman who didn't bat an eye at the unusual family configuration. She examined each girl carefully, her expression growing more concerned with each passing minute. "Mr. Jin, can we talk privately?" she asked after the examination. Jin Hyuk nodded, following her into her office while Mrs. Chen stayed with the girls. "The girls are malnourished," Dr. Patel said bluntly. "Not just underweight, severely malnourished. Their growth has been stunted. They show signs of chronic stress. Hope has that bruise you mentioned, plus older ones that are healing. Faith has some dental issues from lack of proper nutrition. Grace has scar tissue on her back, consistent with being hit with a belt or similar object." Jin Hyuk's vision went red for a moment. "What do they need?" "Nutritious food regularly. Supplements. I'll write prescriptions. Most importantly, they need stability, safety, and love. The physical issues will heal. The emotional trauma will take longer. I'm recommending a child psychologist, someone who specializes in trauma. Whatever they need, cost doesn't matter." Dr. Patel smiled. "You're a good father, Mr. Jin. They're lucky to have you." Father. The word still felt foreign, but less so every day. He started therapy for the girls with Dr. Sarah Washington, a black child psychologist who immediately won their trust. She explained to Jin Hyuk that the girls would need time to process their trauma. that behavioral issues might arise as they tested whether he'd really stay. "They're going to push boundaries," Dr. Washington warned. "They're going to see if you'll abandon them when things get hard. It's not personal, it's survival." Jin Hyuk nodded. "I'm not going anywhere." The first real test came 2 weeks in. Grace threw a spectacular tantrum over being told she couldn't have cookies before dinner, screaming, crying, throwing toys. Jin Hyuk had faced down armed men without flinching, but a 6-year-old's meltdown left him paralyzed. Mrs. Chen stepped in. "Mr. Jin, you need to stay calm. Set the boundary firmly but kindly. She's testing you." Jin Hyuk took a breath. "Grace, I know you're upset, but the rule is dinner first, then dessert. That's not changing." "I hate you," Grace screamed. "You're mean. I want my real daddy." The words cut deep, but Jin Hyuk kept his voice steady. "I'm sorry you're upset, but I love you, and the rule stays." Grace cried for another 10 minutes, then exhausted herself and fell asleep on the couch. When she woke up, she climbed into Jin Hyuk's lap. "I'm sorry I said I hate you," she whispered. "I forgive you. Do you know why I said no to cookies? Because dinner first? Because I want you to be healthy and strong. That's my job, to take care of you, even when you're mad at me." Grace hugged him tight. "You're still my daddy, right? You're not leaving. I'm still your daddy. Forever. Nothing you say or do will change that." The adoption process moved forward. His lawyer, David Chen, was a miracle worker, managing to present Jin Hyuk as a successful businessman with legitimate enterprises, carefully burying anything that might raise red flags. "The home study is in 2 weeks," David explained. "They'll interview you, inspect your home, talk to the girls. Be honest about wanting to provide them a stable home, but perhaps don't mention specifics about your business operations." "Understood." Jin Hyuk spent the next 2 weeks transforming his life. He reduced his direct involvement in illegal operations, delegating more to Min Jun. He made sure the penthouse looked like a family home. Toys visible but organized, children's artwork on the fridge, family photos he'd had taken at a studio. The social worker, Ms. Johnson, was a middle-aged black woman with intelligent eyes that missed nothing. She walked through the penthouse, noting the pink bedroom with 3 beds, the art supplies, the bookshelf full of children's books. "Tell me about how you came to be caring for the girls," she said, settling into a chair. Jin Hyuk told her a version of the truth, that their mother had worked for him, that she'd passed away, that the girls had nowhere else to go. He emphasized his commitment to providing them a stable, loving home. Ms. Johnson interviewed the girls separately. Jin Hyuk paced the hallway outside, more nervous than he'd been during any business negotiation. When she emerged an hour later, her expression was unreadable. "Mr. Jin, those girls love you. It's clear in everything they say. Hope told me you taught her to read Korean. Faith showed me all her new art supplies. Grace said you let her sleep in your bed when she has nightmares. They're good kids. They deserve you," Miss Johnson interrupted. "Mr. Jin, I've been doing this job for 20 years. I've seen a lot of situations. And I'll be honest, when I first got this case, I had concerns. A single man, no previous experience with children, suddenly adopting 3 traumatized girls. It raised flags." Jin Hyuk's stomach dropped. "But," she continued, "I also trust my instincts, and my instincts tell me those girls are exactly where they need to be. They've been through hell, and for the first time in their lives, they feel safe. That's because of you. So you'll approve the adoption." Ms. Johnson met his eyes. "I'm going to be very clear. I don't know exactly what you do for a living. Your financial records are impressive but vague. The way security treats you in this building suggests you're more than just a businessman. I'm not naive." Jin Hyuk's jaw tightened. "But," she said, "whatever you are outside this apartment, inside it, you're a devoted father. Those girls need you. They're thriving under your care. So yes, I'm recommending approval, but Mr. Jin, don't make me regret this. Those girls deserve a father who'll keep them safe from the world. Make sure your world doesn't hurt them." "It won't." "Phil, make sure of that. Then we're done here. Expect the final paperwork in 4 to 6 weeks." After she left, Jin Hyuk stood on his balcony, relief washing over him. They were really going to be his, legally, permanently. His phone buzzed. Min Jun. Found Marcus Chen. Warehouse in Brooklyn. My men have eyes on him. What are your orders? Jin Hyuk looked back at his penthouse, where his daughters were playing with Mrs. Chen. Laughing, safe, happy. He'd promised them safety. Time to keep that promise. Keep him there. I'm coming tonight. And Min Jun, make sure he's alone. No witnesses except our people. Jin Hyuk told Mrs. Chen he had a late business meeting. He kissed each girl goodnight, tucked them into their beds. They were sleeping in their own room now, though the door stayed open to his. Love you, Daddy, Grace mumbled, already half asleep. Love you too, sweetheart. The drive to Brooklyn felt longer than usual. Jin Hyuk's mind was focused, clear. This wasn't about revenge. This was about removing a threat to his family. Cold, calculated, necessary. The warehouse was in Red Hook, an industrial area that smelled of salt water and rust. Min Jun was waiting with 3 other men, all trusted, all discreet. He's inside, boss, chained in the center. He knows something's coming, but not what. Jin Hyuk nodded, checking his gun, adjusting his white shirt. 4 buttons undone, tiger tattoo visible. He wanted Marcus to see exactly who was about to end him. He walked into the warehouse slowly, footsteps echoing on concrete. Marcus Chen was chained to a support beam, bloodied from Min Jun's preliminary interrogation, but conscious. His eyes widened when he saw Jin Hyuk. The Iceman, Marcus breathed. What the hell do you want with me? Jin Hyuk stopped a few feet away, studying him with cold eyes. You killed Jasmine Williams. Marcus laughed, though it came out nervous. The bitch was a liability. She tried to run with my product. I did what I had to do. She had 3 daughters, 6 years old. What do I care about her brats? Jin Hyuk moved so fast Marcus didn't see it coming. The knife buried itself in Marcus's thigh, and his scream echoed off the walls. Those girls, Jin Hyuk said, his voice deadly calm, are my daughters now. You killed their mother. Then you started asking around about them, looking for them, planning to hurt them. Marcus's eyes widened with understanding and terror. You took them. The Iceman is playing daddy. Jin Hyuk twisted the knife, drawing another scream. I'm not playing. They're mine. Legally, permanently. And you made a fatal mistake. You threatened my family. He pulled out his phone, showing Marcus a photo. Hope, Faith, and Grace at breakfast that morning, syrup-covered and laughing, completely unaware of the danger that had been circling them. You wanted to take this from them, Jin Hyuk said softly. Wanted to make them orphans twice, wanted to hurt them just to tie up loose ends. Look, man, I didn't know they were yours. If you'd known, would you have cared? Would you have spared them? Jin Hyuk's eyes were ice. No, you would have used them against me. Leverage, hostages. So I'm going to make sure you never hurt another child again. What happened next was brutal, efficient, and final. Jin Hyuk didn't enjoy it. Not the way he might have years ago, but it was necessary. Marcus Chen died slowly, painfully, knowing exactly why. When it was over, Jin Hyuk washed his hands in the warehouse sink, watching pink water spiral down the drain. Min Jun approached carefully. It's handled, boss. His entire network, everyone who knew about the girls, they're all gone. The girls are safe now. Jin Hyuk nodded, exhaustion settling into his bones. Good. Clean this up. I need to get home. Boss? Min Jun hesitated. You've changed. A year ago you would have done this without blinking, but tonight you were angry. Of course I was angry. He tried to kill my children. Min Jun smiled slightly. Exactly. You love them, and that makes you more dangerous than ever. A man fighting for power can be negotiated with, a man fighting for his family. There's no stopping him. Jin Hyuk didn't respond. He drove home as dawn broke over Manhattan, the city waking up around him. Delivery trucks, early commuters, street vendors setting up. Normal life. The life his daughters would have. Mrs. Chen was already awake when he arrived, making breakfast. Her knowing eyes took in his tiredness, the barely visible tension in his shoulders. They're safe now, she asked quietly. They're safe now. Good. Go shower. The girls will be up soon, and you need to look like their daddy, not like whatever you had to be last night. Jin Hyuk showered, scrubbing away any trace of the warehouse. When he emerged, dressed in clean clothes, the girls were just waking up. They ran to him, Grace jumping into his arms, Faith hugging his waist, Hope smiling that small, genuine smile that meant she felt secure. "Morning, Daddy." Grace kissed his cheek. "Can we have pancakes?" "Anything you want, sweetheart." They sat at breakfast together, the girls chattering about their plans for the day. Coloring, playing with toys, maybe going to the park if it wasn't too cold. Normal things, safe things. That afternoon, his lawyer called. "The adoption is finalized, Mr. Jin. Congratulations. Hope, Faith, and Grace are now legally your daughters." Jin Hyuk sat down heavily, the weight of it hitting him. "It's official?" "Completely. Their names are now Jin Hope, Jin Faith, and Jin Grace. You're their father in every legal sense." After he hung up, Jin Hyuk sat in his office, staring at the official adoption papers. 3 names, 3 lives, his responsibility, his family. Hope wandered in, climbing onto his lap without asking. She did that now, comfortable with physical affection. "What's that?" she asked, pointing at the papers. "Documents that make you officially mine. You're Jin Hope now. Your sisters are Jin Faith and Jin Grace." Her eyes widened. "For real? Forever?" "Forever. We're really your daughters? Really, truly." Hope started crying, not sad tears, but relief and joy mixed together. "I love you, Daddy. I love you too, baby girl. More than anything." That evening, Jin Hyuk gathered all 3 girls on the couch for a family meeting. "I have news," he said. "Good news." "What kind of news?" Faith asked, clutching Mr. Buttons. "The adoption went through. You're mine now. Officially. Legally. Forever." Grace sat up so fast she almost fell off the couch. "Forever, forever? Forever, forever? Your names are Jin Hope, Jin Faith, and Jin Grace. You're Korean and black. You're American. And you're mine. Always." All 3 girls started crying, launching themselves at him. They tangled together in a group hug, tears and laughter mixed together. "We're really a family," Faith whispered. "We're really a family," Jin Hyuk confirmed. They fell asleep that night in a puppy pile on the couch, exhausted from emotion. Jin Hyuk carried them one by one to their beds, tucking them in, kissing their foreheads. Standing in the doorway of their room, watching them sleep peacefully, Jin Hyuk felt something he'd never experienced before. Complete and utter contentment. He had a purpose now, a reason to be better, a family to protect. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "This is Keisha, Jasmine's sister. I heard you have my nieces. I want to see them." Jin Hyuk stared at the message, then typed back, "Tomorrow, my place. Supervised. You upset them, you leave." The response came quickly. "Thank you. I just need to know they're okay." Jin Hyuk sighed. More complications. But family was complicated. And if Keisha was truly Jasmine's sister, the girls deserved to know their aunt. He'd deal with it tomorrow. Tonight he'd just be grateful for what he had. 3 beautiful daughters, sleeping safely in their beds, trusting him to protect them. And he would. Always. Forever. No matter what it cost. Spring arrived in New York with rain and possibilities. The girls had been with Jin Hyuk for 4 months, and the transformation was remarkable. They'd gained weight, their cheeks full and healthy. Their hair was always neatly braided. They laughed freely now, but spring also meant school. "They need education, socialization, structure," Mrs. Chen insisted. "They're 6 years old, Mr. Jin. They should be in 1st grade. Jin Hyuk knew she was right, but the thought of sending them out into the world away from his protection terrified him. What if someone tries to hurt them? You can't keep them in a bubble forever. You've taught them to be strong. Now let them prove it. He enrolled them at PS 234, a highly rated school in Tribeca. The first day he made elaborate breakfast, drove them personally, and stood outside like a sentinel. When school ended, 3 girls ran to him with huge smiles, talking over each other about their amazing day. Teachers, friends, lunch, recess, everything. Jin Hyuk's chest loosened for the first time all day. They were happy. They were thriving. Over the next weeks, the girls flourished. Hope excelled at reading and math. Faith's artwork was displayed in the hallway. Grace made friends with everyone. But success brought complications. 3 weeks in, Ms. Rodriguez called about an incident. Jin Hyuk arrived to find his girls on a bench, Hope with a red mark on her cheek, Grace's knuckles scraped. Some boys were bullying a classmate, Ms. Rodriguez explained. Your daughters intervened, physically. Hope spoke up firmly. They were being mean to Miguel. He was crying. They wouldn't stop, so we made them stop. Jin Hyuk felt torn between pride and concern. His girls had stood up for the weak, used their strength to protect someone defenseless, exactly what he'd taught them. You can't fight at school, he said. Then, quieter. But I'm proud you protected your friend. Next time, find an adult first. If that doesn't work, he glanced at Ms. Rodriguez. Try to resolve things peacefully. That evening, Min Jun called with bad news. The Volkov brothers are making moves, and boss, they've been asking questions about the girls. Where they go to school. Every muscle in Jin Hyuk's body went rigid. Double security, invisible. I don't want them scared. And make it clear, my daughters are off limits. Anyone who looks at them wrong dies. The next night, he met Dmitry and Alexei Volkov at a warehouse. When Dmitry casually mentioned his 3 little girls, Jin Hyuk had a knife at his throat instantly. You can attack my businesses. You can try to kill me. But if you think about my daughters, I will erase your entire bloodline. Do you understand? The Volkovs understood. More challenges came. Kids at school asked why their dad was Korean when they were black. Someone said they weren't a real family. Jin Hyuk gathered them that evening. Different on the outside, but underneath we both have hearts. You're Korean because I'm Korean. You're black because your mother was black. You're both. That makes you special. That makes you powerful. We like being both, Faith said, hugging him. In November, they celebrated the girl's 7th birthday with a massive party. Arcade, cake, presents, friends everywhere. Watching them laugh, Jin Hyuk felt profound happiness. In December, exactly 1 year since they'd appeared at his door, Jin Hyuk stood on his balcony looking at the transformed penthouse. Lights, tree, decorations, stockings, all the chaos and beauty of family. His phone rang. Unknown number. Jin Hyuk? It's Keisha, Jasmine's sister. I heard you have my nieces. I do. I want to see them. I just got out of prison last month, drug charges, but I'm clean now. They're all I have left of my sister. Where were you when they were being abused? When they were starving? I was locked up, but I'm here now. Please just let me see them once. Jin Hyuk arranged one supervised visit. When Keisha arrived, worn, nervous, but genuinely tearful, the girls were cautious at first. But when she asked if she'd take them away, all 3 said no immediately. Then I'm not taking you anywhere, Keisha said, crying. I can see you're happy, safe, loved. That's all I wanted. She turned to Jin Hyuk. Thank you for being what I couldn't be. Keisha visited monthly after that. Complicated family, but family. The months passed. The girls grew taller, stronger, more confident. Jin Hyuk attended parent-teacher conferences, learned to braid hair properly, celebrated every small victory, and slowly, deliberately, he began transitioning his empire. More legitimate businesses, fewer illegal operations. He couldn't risk prison, couldn't risk leaving his daughters. I'm going straight, he told Min Jun, completely, no more grey areas. Understood, boss. For what it's worth, I think you're making the right choice. Jin Hope stood on stage at her middle school graduation, valedictorian medal gleaming on her chest. In the audience, Jin Hyuk sat between Faith and Grace, pride so fierce it hurt. Hope was 12 now, almost 13, brilliant, taking high school math, already being recruited by colleges. Faith was an accomplished artist, paintings in galleries. Grace was soccer captain, student council president, having learned to channel her ADHD into leadership. Hope stepped to the microphone. Today I want to talk about family, choices and second chances. Her eyes found Jin Hyuk's. 5 years ago, my sisters and I were lost. Abandoned, abused, forgotten. Then on Christmas Eve, we knocked on a door, and the man who opened it changed our lives forever. Jin Hyuk's throat tightened. Our father didn't have to take us in. We weren't his blood. We didn't look like him, but he looked at 3 broken children and chose us. He taught us that family isn't about blood. It's about showing up every day. That strength means protecting the weak, that we can be Korean and black and American and proud of all of it. Her voice cracked. Dad, thank you for opening the door. Thank you for saving us. This is for you. The audience erupted. Jin Hyuk stood, tears streaming freely. Faith and Grace stood with him, all clapping as Hope smiled from the stage. They celebrated at Miss Ruby's, still their favorite. Miss Ruby hugged each girl. Look at my babies, all grown up. Hope wanted to be a civil rights lawyer. Faith wanted to study art at RISD. Grace wanted to be a pediatric surgeon. To help sick kids like people helped us, Dad. Min Jun appeared with news. The feds dropped the investigation. We're clean. Relief washed over Jin Hyuk. Good, because I'm out, Min Jun. Completely legitimate now. I have 3 girls to put through college and walk down the aisle someday. That night, tucking them in, too old for it, but they still let him, he visited each room. Hope, I meant what I said. Thank you for everything. You 3 saved me more than I saved you. Faith showed him a drawing. Their family, with Jasmine's shadow behind them. I want to remember her, is that okay? Of course, she loved you very much. Grace bouncing. Do you ever regret taking us in? Never. Not once. You're the best thing that ever happened to me. Later, Faith joined him on the balcony. Do you think we'll always be this happy? Happiness takes work, showing up every day, choosing love. But yes, we'll always have this, because we built it together. Grace called from inside. Dad, Faith, stop being dramatic and come watch a movie. They headed in. The usual chaos. Hope defending her documentary. Grace suggesting comedies. Faith wanting animation. Jin Hyuk settled on the couch, and his daughters cuddled against him. They argued, made popcorn, eventually fell asleep in a puppy pile. Jin Hyuk stayed awake, watching them sleep, feeling their heartbeats. His daughters, his family, his everything. He'd killed men, built an empire on blood, but he'd also done this. Loved 3 children unconditionally, given them safety, education, hope, broken the cycle, shown them love heals. The tiger had found his purpose, not in power, but in protecting 3 small lives that stumbled into his world on a cold Christmas night, and he would protect them until his last breath, always, forever, because that's what fathers do.